Good evening and welcome. Tonight we're going to do something a little bit different in that I'm going to show you a previously exclusive channel members only video. Right now channel members can request topics for me to film videos about for them. I thought this was a really good example of that, not to mention I read a history magazine article in it, which you guys all seem to enjoy. So I thought that I would give you guys a peek behind the curtain and let you see what the paid channel members get to see. A quick note that I did ask the channel members if it was okay if I did this, and it was a very unanimous yes, that they're all excited about you guys seeing one of these videos. So it's all good on that front, even though it's paid content. They're all okay with this, and I thought that this video was a good kind of overall example of what channel members get, but there was one video that the members really wanted me to show you guys, so I'm going to show you that one, or at least a clip of it, because it's really long. I'm going to show you like half an hour of it in October, because it's pretty spooky, and I feel like it would fit better during that time. So go ahead and enjoy this video today as a little preview of what you can expect from being a channel member. If you do want to join channel memberships, it is only 99 cents a month, 99 US cents. That is the lowest I can possibly set it to. If I could go lower, I would. And this is just a good example of what you can get for that monthly membership. Exclusive videos, your name in every video. You get a lot of behind the scenes videos about my life. You get to watch every single video that I make early before the general public. You get special emojis during the live chat and a nice little community as well to interact with. So I would love to have you join if possible, and I hope that you enjoy this video. I'm also on vacation, which is why I'm uploading this now, to give myself a little bit of a break before my trip. So without further ado, here is what I think a really good example of a channel members only video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you find this relaxing and educational, and I hope that you have a good night. Good night. Good evening, channel members. Tonight I'm going to be whispering to you about the killer smog of London. So Growth Tycoon, thank you Growth Tycoon, requested something about their city, London. So I thought that's perfect because I have this history magazine article, which is a photo essay. And it's a neat photo essay, but I couldn't really figure out how to fit it into a category of everything else in History Magazine. And like literally that day, Growth Tycoon's like, can you do a video about London? And I'm like, absolutely, I can. So I also checked out a book about it so we can read more in depth about the Great Smog. And also the background is from Chris. Thank you, Chris, for giving me a beautiful underground map there. I'll put it up on my wall in the next postcard video, which should be next week. But thank you. So let's read about the killer smog. And if you want a book about your city, your country, if you want a video about anything, just let me know and I'll make that work for you. Anything you want, pretty much, within reason, obviously. So, the killer smog of London, England. The Great Smog. On a chilly, windless day in December 1952, a thick, yellowish black fog settled over London, England. The foul-smelling air was so dense, people shuffled alongside sidewalks, barely able to see their feet. Rosemary Merritt, a schoolgirl at the time, remembers linking hands with other children to get to and from school. Drivers blinded by the fog inched along the streets, causing huge traffic jams. To avoid getting stuck in traffic, Rosemary's father walked more than an hour to get home from work that day. When he finally reached the front door, Rosemary remembers he was not breathing very well and coughing quite a lot. That night, when Rosemary was asleep, quote, I was woken up by my mom banging on doors. Her dad was gasping for air. Down here the little box says, I'll read you all the little boxes. It says, heavy fogs are common in London. However, the yellowish black cloud that hung over London in December 1952 was different. It was actually a deadly kind of air pollution called smog. A terrible loss. In a panic, Rosemary's mother called the doctor. However, he couldn't reach their house in the thick smog. With no other options, Rosemary and her mother decided to get the medicine themselves. They walked slowly toward the doctor's office. The sooty air made it hard to breathe. Rosemary and her mom finally reached the doctor's office, got the medicine, and made their way home. When they arrived at their house, they were stunned to discover that Rosemary's father had died. Sadly, he was not the only person to lose his life during the Great Smog of 1952. By the time the smog had lifted, thousands of lives were lost. The Great Smog of 1952 is considered the world's worst air pollution disaster. Look at Piccadilly Circus. Oh my gosh. Looking back, what had caused the Great Smog of 1952? The story begins in the late 1700s. That's when London became one of the biggest industrial centers in the world. Thousands of factories, making everything from glass bottles to fabric, were built throughout the city. In order to power the factories, huge amounts of coal were burned. The people of London also used tons of coal to heat their homes and to cook their food. As London continued to grow over the centuries, more and more coal was used. The burning coal sent giant plumes of smoke and tiny particles of soot into the air. It also released dangerous gases. When all of this pollution mixed with fog, it created smog. London sits in a huge basin along the River Thames. It's surrounded by low-lying hills that trap fog in the city. Pea soupers. By the 1900s, more than 1 million chimneys were pumping coal smoke into London's air. Smog had become a common problem in the city. On some days it hung in the air like a blanket. Because smog is often very thick and can appear yellowish in color, it can look like pea soup. Londoners would often call a bad day of smog a pea souper. People with respiratory problems are often very uncomfortable during pea soupers. The pollution irritated their lungs, making it hard to breathe. On days when the smog was very bad, the elderly, very young, or sick could become seriously ill when the tiny soot particles in the air lodged in their weak lungs. The smog that hit London in 1952 wasn't just any pea souper, though. It was the deadliest smog ever to shroud the city. Look at this drawing here. This looks like the big fire we had in California in 2020. The sky was literally this color. It was crazy. But anyway, the black soot in the air on a smoggy day caused some people to cough up dark-colored phlegm. December 5th, 1952. Friday, December 5th, 1952 was a freezing cold day in London. To stay warm, people shoveled extra coal into their fireplaces, creating clouds of thick black smoke. At the same time, coal-burning factories and power and sent tons of soot-filled smoke into the air. The smoke from the homes and factories contained poisonous chemicals such as carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and hydrochloric acid. The deadliest chemical, sulfuric acid, formed when sulfur dioxide mixed with the moist London air. A huge amount of sooty smoke and deadly gases swirled together in the sky. However, instead of rising into the air and spreading out, the cold, windless air trapped the exhaust just above the ground. A thick layer of smelly smog formed over the city. By the weekend, Londoners were facing a crisis they could have never imagined. Oh wait, where's the box? There it is. In some places, the blanket of smog was more than 200 feet or 61 meters thick. It was also about 30 miles or 48 kilometers wide. Blinded. By Saturday morning, the smog had blocked out the sun's light. Greyhounds running around a racetrack jolted to a stop when they couldn't see the rabbit they were chasing. Disoriented birds crashed into buildings. On London's streets, the drivers, blinded by the smog, abandoned their cars and started walking. Double-decker bus drivers pulled over to the side of the road or circled back to the station. As the visibility worsened, policemen held flaming torches as a way to guide the vehicles and pedestrians. This, however, did little to help. I had to creep along the walls of the buildings to the next corner to read the name of the street, remembers Donald Atchison, a young doctor at the time. This is an interesting photo of this goalie here playing football, and he's trying to see where all the players are. He's looking. I mean, it's a sad photo, but interesting. He's like straining to see where all the players are so he can see the ball. The low visibility caused many accidents. Cars and buses ran off the road. 2 trains crashed onto each other near London Bridge. And here's a bus that crashed there. Filthy air. The thick, filthy air also crept into buildings, making it impossible to see. At many of London's theaters, shows were cancelled because viewers couldn't see the stage or screen. Nurses at the Royal London Hospital remembered not being able to see from one end of their ward to the other. The smog also covered everything with a greasy black film. I became very dirty, remembers Richard Scorer, a professor who had ridden his bicycle through the smog. It was as if I'd fallen into a puddle of mud. The sooty grime blackened people's faces and clothing. At the London Zoo, the polar bear's white fur turned dark in color. However, no one was prepared for the terror that followed. Look at this poor boy getting wiped down because he's covered in soot. But look at his mum here, she's just as bad. Oh, how horrible. He's probably got it in his eyes. He looks so sad. Sickened by the smog. The smog was more than just a huge inconvenience. At an animal fair, 11 prized cows collapsed after breathing in the noxious air. In an attempt to save the animals, the owners tied green sacks around the cows' noses and mouths. Despite the makeshift masks, the animals still perished. Look how sad. He's very sad for his cow, poor baby. Around the city, people too were dying by the hundreds. Dr. Donald Atchison remembers hospital wards filling with people who couldn't breathe. Without enough clean air and oxygen, their lips turned blue. At the hospital, the supply of oxygen tanks was stretched to the limit, remembers Dr. Atchison. By December 6th, 500 people in London had died from the smog. By Sunday,
December 7th, visibility was such that Londoners could only see 1 foot or 0.3 meters ahead wherever they went. As a result, ambulances couldn't operate. Many people had to walk to the hospital through the smog. Illness and death. Smokers and people with lung disease were the first to die. They developed serious infections such as pneumonia. Inside their bodies, pus oozed from their weakened lungs. Over time, as the infections worsened, victims suffocated. The more and more people fell ill. Then more and more people fell ill. As the days passed, the death rate rose sharply. Soon, undertakers began to run out of coffins to bury the dead, and florists used up all their flowers. It's thought that as many as 12,000 people died during the Great Smog. And it's believed that 100,000 people became ill as a result of the smog. The Great Smog lifts. Finally, after 5 long days, a strong wind blew the killer smog out to sea. Then it started to rain. The black sooty grime that was caked on everything was washed away. People could once again see their feet as they walked. Traffic whizzed down the city streets. Big Ben and other London landmarks shone clearly in the bright sky. Things began to return to normal. However, the effects of the terrible air pollution were still being felt throughout the city. People sickened by the smog continued to die. In addition, the smog resulted in thousands of new cases of lung diseases, such as asthma. It says the Great Smog of 1952 lasted from December 5th to December 9th. The Clean Air Act. At first, the British government tried to downplay the disaster. One government official blamed the weather. He also said that air pollution was a necessary part of life in London. The people of London knew that these claims weren't true. Groups fighting for cleaner air, such as the Coal Smoke Abatement Society, as well as politicians, demanded the government take action. Finally, in response to the disaster, the government passed the Clean Air Act of 1956. New laws encouraged people to burn cleaner fuel that created less pollution. It also set up smoke-free zones in London. Power plants and other polluting factories were required to move farther outside the city, away from people's homes. It says by decreasing air pollution, the Clean Air Act increased the amount of sunshine in London by 70%. London's air today. Despite efforts to reduce air pollution in London, another deadly smog struck in December 1962. However, the number of deaths was a few hundred, much fewer than in 1952. Although there hasn't been another disaster like the Great Smog, air pollution is still a major problem in London. Experts found that more than 30,000 people are dying prematurely from air pollution across the United Kingdom each year. While coal smoke no longer fills the air, much of the air pollution comes from vehicle exhaust. With more than 3 million cars on London streets, air pollution continues to put lives at risk. There's Sadiq Khan. He says every child deserves the right to breathe clean air, and that's so true. Air pollution also comes from more than 1 million wood-burning stoves used throughout London. I think the rest, just talks about how to advocate for cleaner air. But let's read the History Magazine photo essay here. There's some really great pictures. The Great Smog of London from December 5th to 9th, 1952. The British capital was engulfed in an immense cloud of pollution which paralyzed the city and led to thousands of deaths. The episode triggered triggered radical clean air reform and a new era of environmental awareness. Unreal City. This eerie nocturnal image of a bus moving along the London embankment on December 6, 1952, was taken in what should have been daylight. As the capital of the world's first industrialized nation, London suffered extreme environmental pollution throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, when spikes in deaths from respiratory diseases were commonplace. The combination of smoke and fog gave rise to a new hazard of modern and industrial life and a new word, smog. When low temperatures, an anticyclone, and low winds coincided, the smoke emitted by factories and homes concentrated over the city without rising or dispersing. The resulting smog left the streets practically in darkness. These conditions came together to create the Great Smog of 1952. The streets were almost dark and traffic was interrupted by lack of visibility. London Airport, today known as Heathrow Airport, was closed, and Londoners were left without entertainment. Soccer matches were cancelled, cinemas and theaters were closed, and smog invaded not only the streets and buses, but also the interiors of buildings. Look how bright the lights are in daylight. The curse of coal. The smog was caused by coal, which powered 90% of Britain's energy output in the 1950s. The coal-fired behemoth of Battersea Power Station, whose chimneys reared over the Thames River upstream from Westminster, was a major contributor to the capital's pollution. Most of the polluting smoke, however, came from the chimneys of private homes, as seen in the image at the far right, taken a few years after the Great Smog. Londoners were attached to the tradition of gathering by the fireplace, despite the inefficiency of coal fires in heating the home. The domestic coal burned in London's hearths was often of poor quality, with a high proportion of sulfur. In areas of central London during the Great Smog, the concentration of sulfur dioxide in the air was 10 times normal levels. So here's Battersea, which I've never seen a photo of it actually like in operation. I'm pretty sure it's abandoned now, right? Because I know like a lot of BBC shows will use this as a filming location. I think like pretty much almost every BBC drama I've watched has at least one scene that's filmed at Battersea as something like dystopian or industrial kind of scene for like Doctor Who or something like that. But yeah, I've never actually seen it in operation before. Really interesting. And then this reminds me of like Mary Poppins, when it's Bert, the chimney sweep, up on the roof. They're all dancing on tops. Step in time, so on and so forth. It reminds me of that. I love Mary Poppins. Sulfur soup. A pedestrian guides a motorist over a bridge during the Great Smog. Londoners called smog episodes pea soupers for the blackish-yellow color of the air. Walking through one assailed the senses. It gave off a smell of sulfur, leaving a layer of grime on skin and clothes. Those who lived through the Great Smog remember how it muffled sounds. Okay, put a note in that. Most disorienting, however, was the loss of visibility. You literally could not see your hand in front of your face. Londoner Barbara Fuster recalled in a 2002 interview with the BBC. She described driving back from a party with her then-fiancé 50 years earlier. The smog hit us like a wall. It was absolutely solid. It was a terrifying journey. The only thing to do was for me to walk in front of the car. My fiancé hung out of the window while I walked in front to guide him. Yeah, that also, where was it, muffled sounds, reminds me of that 2020 fire in the Bay Area, where the sky literally turned bright orange. The sound was definitely muffled. It was so bizarre. I remember actually, because it was like maybe a week or two after I started this channel, and I had to go to the library to pick up some books to read about Haiti. It's like the second country I ever covered was Haiti. So I got on my bike and rode out, and it was so quiet. It was like I put my hands over my ears. That's what it sounded like outside. It was so strange, and it was so cold. It was in like August, right? It was like the end of August when we're having 100-degree days, just sweltering hot. I had to put on a sweater, and it was like 70, like a low 70 degrees outside. It was crazy. I remember. But then it burned off by like 4 p.m. and literally the temperature went from 70 to like 95 in a couple of minutes when the smoke was gone. It was crazy. That was like the wildest environmental day. But let's look at this photo. You can see the driver hanging out the window. And this looks like how the book said that people would use flaming torches. It looks like he's holding some kind of paper and it's on fire, which is probably not the best thing for the environment. But you know what else I noticed about this photo is that if you look real close, and I'll bring this, hopefully this will pick up, you can see the grime on the camera lens. Can you see all these little flecks? You can see the dirt that is all over. You can see it's kind of smeared there. You can see the dirt that's on the camera that's picking up in the photo. A little piece of soot right there. Like, how wild is that? Wow. A clean break. A London public health official measures air quality in November 1954. That's this photo. And a woman wears a smog mask. You can see her. During a pollution episode in 1953, a year after the Great Smog, although the capital continued to experience high levels of pollution, the 1952 Great Smog marked a turning point in public awareness of environmental contamination. Some 4,000 people were known to have died as a direct result of the 5-day smog. It was the deadliest pollution event reported anywhere in the world at the time. I think the deadliest is Bhopal, right? In India. Like environmental disasters, Bhopal, I believe. But at the time. And researchers today estimate the death toll to have been much higher. In 1956, based on the report of a special committee, the British Parliament approved a Clean Air Act that delimited urban areas where burning coal was prohibited. These areas expanded until they covered more than half of the municipal area in 1969. As in many modern cities, traffic pollution now has replaced coal as a public health hazard. While traffic reduction schemes in London have proved successful in reducing pollution, they have also faced opposition from sectors of the public. Now look at this guy. He's got all kinds of gizmos and gadgets, right? All kinds of tubes monitoring some kind of level in the air, right? I wonder what all this does. Interesting. And then look at this Bobby right here. Telling her where to go. Classic Bobby hat. Which is, if you don't know, the police. The nickname for the police in England. And this classic underground sign. Like, it still looks pretty old. They don't quite look like this anymore, but it's still so distinguishable, isn't it? I think that's the last photo. Yeah. Interesting. I'm also reminded of, like, the first time I went to LA was in the, like I would say, like, 96, 97. And I remember coming over the hills that lead to LA. It's called the Grapevine. And just seeing just smog. Like, you couldn't even see the city. Like, I wouldn't be able to tell you what the LA skyline looked like because you couldn't see it. It was so smoggy. But nowadays, like, it's very clear. Like, sometimes, I haven't been there in a couple of years, but I'm going next month, actually. You can kind of see a little bit of haze in the, like, horizon. side, not the ocean side. But for the most part, it's very clear nowadays. Like, yeah, I just remember coming over the hill and just seeing a wall of smog. Like, it's so different now, thankfully. But anyway, enough rambling. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and remember, whatever topics you want, I'll cover it for you. No problem at all. I hope you found this video relaxing and educational. And I hope that you have a good night.